What Falcons do, rise up. Welcome to Rise Up Reactions, the show where we talk all things Falcons, NFL, Georgia sports, and in general the sports news of the day. I'm your host, Dr. Lee Denning, lifelong sports fan, and the Golden Hard Dog. And today I'm just coming back to you real quick with a week 2, or preseason week 2 rather, preview of the game today with the Falcons hosting the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, real quick, I'm trying to get to 500 subscribers by the end of the 2023 season. Would love to hit that goal sooner so that I can change it to 1,000. If you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button, consider liking the video, sharing with other Falcons fans. It'll really help this channel grow and help me reach more people and just really help that process along. Thank you guys for watching, being patient with me. Let's jump right into this. So, right out of the gate, Falcons are going to be playing their starters for at least the first quarter and then maybe a little bit into the second. The biggest thing in preseason is always evaluate the talent that you have that might be on the fringe, get the starters a little bit of reps, and avoid injury. So we really don't want to see a lot of our guys out there for big time game moments to try and avoid injury in terms of starters. We already have a pretty good idea who our starters are going to be. That's not the question. The question is, who is going to be the depth here? Who is on the bubble of the 53-man roster? Are we going to take Logan Woodside and have him on the active roster as a third quarterback given the new rule? So those are things that we have to consider here. And just looking at it real quick, this is the offense starting out. We're starting out, Desmond Ridder is going to be QB1 with Taylor Heinicke and Logan Woodside behind him. Look for both of those guys to get some reps in the second, third, and fourth quarter. Then you have Cordarrelle Patterson as RB1, Tyler Algier as RB2, and Bijan Robinson as RB3. But look for Bijan to show a little bit of flash in the slot because he's been working as a wide receiver as well. So, there are some sites that have him with about 1,400 yards total this season. I think that's a solid smash on the up on that one because I think between all yardage, he probably can get at least 1,400 all-purpose yards in 17 games this year if we use him like we think we are. Then you're going to see Carlos Washington and Godwin Igwebuike, I think is how you say his name. I finally learned how to pronounce that one. Keith Smith at fullback, and then Clint Ratkovich. He probably doesn't stand much of a chance of making the roster. Moving on, let's talk about the line real quick. Jake Matthews at left tackle. We did have a injury to Matt Hennessy, which looks like it may be one where he misses significant time, probably season ending. So Matt Bergeron is going to get a go-ahead starting nod at left guard, probably a little sooner than we wanted to, but hey, we're going to throw him out there and see what happens. Got Drew Dahlman, Ryan Newsel as the centers here. I do look for Drew Dahlman to win that battle. Got Chris Lindstrom, our all-pro right guard, and Caleb McGarry, a guy that I'm still a little nervous about at the right tackle position. Jalen Mayfield will be the second for right tackle, and then I look for him to probably get some reps over at left guard. He's a more natural tackle. I believe that's what he played when he was at Michigan, and again, this is kind of a prove-it year, prove-it moment for Jalen Mayfield because we have to make a decision now that he's in year 3 whether we are going to keep him around year 4 or move on and start looking for better depth pieces down the line. He's really in the prime of contract-seeking time, so he's got to show some massive improvement after being out all of last year. He's done that in camp so far. Per one of my friends who will remain unnamed, but is a Miami Dolphins fan and a Michigan fan, you know who you are. I remember when we talked about this guy, you said he was going to be a project when we took him in the 3rd round. Certainly has been the feel around Jalen Mayfield, and I hope that he steps up and is somebody that we can rely on going forward as at least a solid depth piece, if not a starter in his own right at some point. Tight end 1 and 2, we're going to have Kyle Pitts and Jonnu Smith. Jonnu we got in the 7th round this past year, or it's not the 7th round, but for a 7th round draft pick this past year in a trade. Knows the Arthur Smith system in and out. He was made famous by the Arthur Smith system. And then you have Kyle Pitts, who has all of the depth, all of the talent in the world. Parker Hesse, we did get him back, and so we get Michael Pruitt back as well. Both of them are tight end 2s at their respective positions on the left and right side. And then moving on to wide receiver, no surprise here, Drake London, wide receiver 1. With Mac Hollins, wide receiver 2. Carterell Hodge is currently the wide receiver 3, with Scotty Miller being the slot guy. And then, again, these are guys that we're going to see in the first and probably second quarter, and then we're probably going to be seeing more of your J.J. Arcega-Whitesides, Josh Ali, Matt Sexton, Zay Malone, Penny Hart. Some of these guys that are probably on the bubble of special teams or potentially being wide receiver number 6. 7, something like that on the depth chart. Again, I don't know that we're going to really want to run with one of those guys. And honestly, from a special teams standpoint, we may end up giving D. Alford the job, which would open up an extra running back position or something like that for a run-heavy Atlanta team. Let's look at the defense real quick. That's kind of the offensive side of the ball. Let's real quick talk about the defense. Talk about our starting defensive linemen. Our 3 starters are going to be Grady Jarrett, of course, our all-pro defensive tackle. David Onyemata, guy that we just brought in. He is going to help us usher in the Ryan Nielsen defensive coordinator stamp. And then Calais Campbell, an aging veteran who still has a lot of juice left in that tank. He is a hype machine. He has been a locker room presence in the offseason this year and has really been hyping up this Atlanta defense. I am super excited to see what these 3 guys can do when they're all on the field at the same time. And then on either side of them, you have Arnold Ebiketie and Bud Dupree as the outside linebackers. Caden Ellis, Troy Anderson inside. We are going to be leaning on some youth in that interior linebacker position. That does make me a little bit nervous. There have been some thoughts that maybe we would bring back Rashaan Evans to help out with that middle linebacker position. I don't know. We spent a second rounder on Troy Anderson. We just got rid of Michael Walker after he has failed to produce for the last year after being slotted in as a starter last year. Just picked up off of waivers by Chicago not that long ago. But again, we're going to see what we've got here with these guys, and then you're going to see a lot of Tay Davis, Nate Lamb, and Andre Smith, Mike Jones Jr., Frank Genda, not sure how you say his last name. But you'll see some of those guys at the linebacking position as well. Lorenzo Carter, this is a surprise to me to see Lorenzo Carter, who we brought back for a 2-year deal as a backup to start with, behind Bud Dupree, who I do think Bud Dupree is a little bit better, but he's a little bit longer in the tooth. And I'm also surprised that he's not starting on the other side ahead of Arnold Ebiketie like he did last year. So I think that means that the staff have tremendous respect for what Arnold Ebiketie can be, and I'm excited for that as well. So I think we have a very solid front 4 to front 5 here, depending on what the look is. If we go for a 3-4 look, I think we've got solid edge rushers with a phenomenal defensive interior. You're no longer going to see all those double teams on Grady Jarrett because you're physically not going to be able to do that and keep pressure off of the quarterback from somewhere else. Calais Campbell himself is a double team. David Onyemata may at times command a double team, and Grady Jarrett's a double team. You're not going to get Bud Dupree. You're not going to get Caden Ellis, and you're not going to get Arnold Ebiketie blocked every single time because you're going to have to worry about our interior pressure. It's going to force the quarterback outside of the box quite often, which is exactly where they need to be for Ebiketie and for Dupree and Carter to get their hands on him. And that's where we've struggled. If we can even be middle of the pack compared to where we've been the last few years, then that will be a tremendous improvement. I actually am going to make a bold prediction. We are going to have a top 12 defensive pass rush this year. We are going to be top 12 in sacks, going from bottom bin all the way up to the top tier. That's my bold prediction for this year. And then in our secondary, going to be great to see Jesse Bates, see how he is adapting to Atlanta, combined with A.J. Terrell at corner 1. Jeff Okudah, they are listing at corner 2. I thought he was still hurt. I didn't think we were going to be seeing him until at least week 3 or 4. They have him listed. Don't know what that means for sure, but that is somebody that I'm looking forward to seeing. We didn't really waste a whole lot. We got him for a 5th round pick, basically a trade with the Lions, and I think that he can't do much better than that. He's got such a high ceiling, and his floor, we already know what it is. Floor is injury prone and not living up to the hype around him. And if that's the case, then we did bring on guys like Mike Hughes, Trey Flowers, and we still have D. Alford, Darren Hall, who can step in as well. Cornell Armstrong is a guy that we brought back. I'm not particularly loving him because I remember last year at the Carolina game, that was my first real good look at him because he just kind of had to step up and be that starting corner, and it was not a good look for him. We're a year removed from that. We're a little bit more experienced. We are hopefully looking at somebody who's a little bit more polished this year. You are going to have Richie Grant as the starting safety beside Jesse Bates. Jalen Hawkins, having been a starter last year, now taking a seat behind Jesse Bates to be more of a relief guy. And then you have DeMarco Hellams, who is trying his best to make a case to be on the roster here instead of just maybe a practice squad guy as our 7th round pick. Had a phenomenal preseason week 1, a guy that I'm really going to be interested in watching this week. But yeah, that's really who I'm interested in seeing. And I think between the other battle that we're really looking at here is, do we want to have Logan Woodside as our third quarterback, or do we want him to be a practice squad guy and open up, that roster spot for something else? And are we going to be able to see D. Alford take over the punt return duties? Because we know that Cordell Patterson is going to be the kick returner. And then my biggest thing here is I think we're going to see a major battle over the next 2 weeks for the RB4 position with Carlos Washington Jr., who is a little bit better as a receiving back, and Godwin Igwebuike, who is seemingly a more bruising back and had much better production last week. This is a major battle between these two. Godwin is currently the RB5 with Carlos RB4. I think that's just semantics at this point. I think you could just pick either one and go from there. But that's what I got. Now, here's the other kicker to this. We are not going to be seeing starters, or at least not a lot of starters, from the Cincinnati Bengals. So we need our starters to come out and beat the ever-living piss out of whoever is going up against us from the second, third, and fourth string, if that's how Cincinnati chooses to play it. We do not need to see struggling. I will be much more worried about the season if we struggle against backups. Joe Burrow, we're still not sure if he's going to be ready for week 1 for Cincinnati, so he's definitely not playing. Probably not going to see a lot of the starting wide receivers because, again, they're trying to save them for the beginning of the year, for the season. But that's all I got for you guys. I'm excited for the season. It's week 2. This is probably preseason week 2. This is the only time that we're going to see starters, most likely. So I unfortunately will not get a chance to watch except for highlights. I'm going to be on the road. Fantasy football season is about, and I have 2 drafts tomorrow live with people that I went to residency with and just good friends down in the Middle Georgia area. But thank you guys for watching, liking, sharing, subscribing. Again, trying to hit that 500 subscriber goal by the end of the 2023 football season. Thanks, and as always, rise up.